This is your St. Pulse Sunday report. Thank you for joining us. Today's top headlines include more Trump demands and a work economy in free fall. April 12, 2026. Today, high-stakes ceasefire negotiations between the United States and Iran concluded their initial rounds in Islamabad, Pakistan, without a final agreement. Vice President J.D. Vance led the American side in talks that stretched over 14 to more than 21 hours across sessions, marking one of the most direct high-level engagements between the two nations since the 1979 Iranian Revolution. Disagreements centered on Iran's nuclear program, its missile capabilities, navigation and toll issues in the Strait of Hormuz, and broader regional de-escalation, including calls related to Lebanon. President Trump responded by announcing an immediate U.S. naval blockade of Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, directing forces to seek and interdict vessels that had paid Iranian tolls to cross the waterway. This came after earlier U.S. efforts to clear naval mines from the strait and amid reports of Iranian strikes on targets in Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia, where energy infrastructure damage was being repaired. The Iranian government updated its domestic death toll from the conflict to 3,375. In southern Lebanon, Israeli airstrikes continued, killing at least 24 people in one reported wave and pushing the broader Hezbollah-Israel conflict death toll past 2,000 according to Lebanese authorities. These developments unfold against a fragile two-week ceasefire backdrop that had briefly allowed some maritime traffic to resume in the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant portion of global oil passes. Pakistan's deputy prime minister urged both sides to honor the ceasefire and offered continued facilitation. Meanwhile, the human costs remain stark. Thousands dead across the region, displaced families, strained hospitals, and disrupted energy markets that have already rippled into higher fuel concerns for ordinary people far beyond the Middle East. This moment invites us to consider how the United States has historically approached moments of direct confrontation and negotiation with adversaries in the Middle East and beyond. The Constitution grants the President significant authority as Commander-in-Chief, yet it also embeds checks through Congress's power over war declarations, funding, and treaties. Throughout our history, leaders have tested the boundaries of executive power during crises. Think of the quasi-war with France in the late 1790s, the naval engagements against the Barbary states in the early Republic, or the more modern precedents of limited military actions in the Gulf region without full congressional authorization. The pattern often reveals a recurring tension: the desire for decisive action to protect American interests and global commerce versus the long-term risks of escalation, entanglement, and the erosion of diplomatic norms. In the Progressive Era and after World War II, Americans grappled with how to balance power projection with the rule of law and international cooperation. The post-1945 order, including institutions built to manage crises like this, emphasized diplomacy, alliances, and economic interdependence precisely because unchecked great power conflict had nearly destroyed the world twice in the first half of the 20th century. What stands out today is how these events test not only immediate security questions but also the durability of American self-government and our capacity for measured foresight. History shows that wars, even those framed as limited or victorious in the moment, often carry unforeseen consequences for civilians, economies, and democratic accountability at home. Public fatigue with prolonged engagements, questions over costs versus benefits, and the human stories behind casualty figures have repeatedly shaped domestic politics, from Vietnam through the Iraq and Afghanistan eras. The emphasis on civilian impact, hospital strain, displacement, families caught in crossfire, reminds us why the founders and later generations insisted on transparency and debate rather than unchecked momentum. Broader implications extend to energy security, regional alliances, and the global economy. A sustained blockade or renewed escalation could further spike oil prices, affecting American drivers, farmers, and manufacturers already navigating inflation concerns. On the diplomatic front, the involvement of third parties like Pakistan highlights how middle powers can play constructive or complicating roles, much as they have in past Cold War era or post-Cold War mediations. As we watch these developments, the long arc of our democracy suggests that understanding the facts, weighing historical lessons about executive authority and the human stakes of conflict, and insisting on accountable processes remain essential. Americans have navigated uncertain international waters before by grounding ourselves in shared principles of self-government and the rule of law, even when the path forward felt unclear. Staying informed and reflecting on those enduring ideas helps keep our feet under us amid fast-moving events.